Bombas makes the most comfortable socks, underwear, and T-shirts.
Warning, Bombas are so absurdly comfortable you may throw out all your other clothes.
Sorry, do we legally have to say that?
No, this is just how I talk, and I really love my Bombas.
They do feel that good. And they do good, too. One item purchased equals one item donated.
To feel good and do good, go to bombas.com/Wondery and use code WONDERY for 20% off your first purchase. That's BOMBAS.com/Wondery and use code WONDERY at checkout.
I'm Brett.
And I'm Alice.
And we are the Prosecutors. Today on the Prosecutors, our year in review. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of The Prosecutors. I'm Brett, and I'm joined, as always, by my holly jolly co-host, Alice.
Hi, Brett. I am holly jolly. I can't believe we're doing a year wrap again. Like, where does the time go?
I mean, we're doing it in October, technically. So it's a little early. I know you guys are hearing this in December,
okay? I was trying to be in character. But still, it boggles my mind that yet another year has come and gone. Especially because when I think about the cases we've done this past year, I'm like, what did we cover? Because the years all blend together. And it's like an emotional journey to go back through all the cases we've done. Well,
today we are going to talk a little bit about our favorite cases that we've done and, answer some of your questions. We're recording this live. I guess if anybody from the chat wants to join and ask a question, they're welcome to do that as well. It's sort of a free-for-all. And then next week's Christmas, guys, which is wild.
You know what I feel like? I feel like we're like Hobby Lobby or Costco who puts out the Christmas in July decorations for sale.
All I want for Christmas is you.
We're just going with the times. What can we say?
Yeah. This is what happens when you're having a baby at the end of the year. You have to record way ahead of time, including through Christmas. So that's what we're doing. Anyways, so you don't have to imagine. For you, this is actually happening in Christmas. So we're going to put on our Santa hats right now and do this right. So Merry Christmas to everybody. I hope you guys have had a great holiday season. And we look forward to the next year, which is going to be amazing. We're going to have a lot of awesome stuff for you guys. We're going to be doing some big cases, some cases you guys have been asking for a while. And we'll just see how it goes, if we survive next year or not. And hey, CrimeCon's in September. It's in Denver. If you haven't gotten your tickets yet, code Prosecutors for 10% off. Do that. We'd love to see you. And who knows? Maybe we'll have some children in tow. You never know. Okay. With that, Alice, I think we should start with one of my favorite things that we do is our demographics. Our listeners, where you guys come from. I know a lot of y'all really enjoy this. And we try and give you an update on this every now and then. So we'll start with countries. I think the first one is obvious. The United States is number one with about 80% of our listeners. But that means 1 in 5 of you are from somewhere else around the world, which is awesome. And I would encourage you all to send us cases from your countries. We love doing cases from other countries. It's a lot of fun, and we don't do enough of it. So please do that. And maybe you can start with our number 2 country. Alice, any guesses? Number 2?
The UK?
The UK.
All right.
Comes in number 2. Number 3. Do you want to guess number 3?
Oh, wait. Oh, man. Australia?
Australia is number 4.
Okay.
Everybody always forgets about number 3.
Man, I have no idea then.
Canada.
Oh, sorry, Canada. Oh, that should have been an obvious
They're
one.
Right
I'm so
there.
sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. Maybe next year we'll remember you. And then our 5th country, which is always fun. Germany. So Germany comes in number 5, which is fun because that's a non-English speaking country. I mean, everybody in Germany speaks English, but the other top 4
I really do
English.
wonder how other countries hear about our podcast. So if you have a great story of how you heard about us, please let us know, especially in non-English speaking countries. I think that's fascinating.
And we've only done the one German story, right?
Yep.
The Hinterkaifeck. Is that Germany or Austria? I can't remember.
No. That was Germany.
Was that Germany? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm almost positive. I'm almost positive it was Germany.
I think it was.
But no, I think that's fascinating how you hear about us, and also so much respect for me because Brett over here has a drawl. I apparently speak very quickly, or maybe with a lot of spit in my mouth, depending on which 1-star review you're listening to. So I can't imagine that listening to our podcast as a second language is easy, but love that you guys listen.
Okay, so do you want to guess the top state in the United States? Obviously,
I mean, it's got to be Texas, right?
It is Texas, and it's far and away.
God bless Texas, y'all. Thank you. I knew that a Texas girl could count on her Texans.
10% of our listeners come from Texas.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. Yeah. Second,
Man.
You want to guess second?
Okay. I remember this map of most Googled or whatever. I'm going to say somewhere in the South, somewhere in the SEC region. Is it going to be?
No.
Oh,
there
no.
is. Number 3 is an SEC state, but number 2 is not.
California?
California.
California pulling through.
Okay, number 3. What do you think?
Number 3, I'm going to go with Florida.
Florida's number 3. So
guys, by the way, I did not cheat. I didn't look at anything.
California, by the way, is 9%. So catching up on Texas. They're fighting it out.
Texas, watch your back.
Then it's a big drop to Florida. Florida is 4.2%. And the next one is 4%. Any guesses?
Alabama?
No, this is not a southern state.
Oh. New York?
New York is number 4. And then
you guys.
Last but not least, just under New York. Actually, you'll never get this one, but you can guess if you want to.
Utah? I'm just throwing one out there.
No, North Carolina.
Hey, North Carolina,
North Carolina. Throw your hands up.
Woo.
Take your shirt off. Wave it around your head like a helicopter. There you go. Okay, and time zones are pretty easy. Eastern is number 1, Central is number 2, Pacific is number 3. Mountain time number 4, and then our favorite time, British summertime, which is amazing. Makes me just want to drink tea. Okay, last thing before we move on to more substantive conversation. Alice, what do you think the top city is?
Okay, well, if Texas is 10% of our listeners, rationally, I would think it's somewhere in Texas, and I'm going to go with Dallas-Fort Worth. If they put them
Dallas
together.
is number 1.
Okay.
1.3% of our listeners live in Dallas. So, yay, Dallas.
I love you guys so much, Texas. This look, I just have to say, so I drove for a field trip today for a bunch of first graders, and one of the first graders in my class, all he wanted to do was listen to college football fight songs, which is hilarious and very cute. And he kept singing "The Eyes of Texas Are Upon You" when I was like, this kid, he does not live in Texas, but the reach of Texas is far. So thank you, Texans.
I'm sure that none of that has to do with indoctrination by his mother. Tell you what, by the time you hear this, one of the biggest football games, maybe ever, will have been played. Texas and Texas A&M. If Texas and Texas A&M continue not to lose any games, and they're to play in the SEC championship game, the first time they're playing each other in like a decade, that's going to be all the oil money in Texas is going to go to tickets for that game.
It is so fun, y'all. The day after Thanksgiving, I don't even think I've ever been to a game, but I've been to all the rallies.
Yeah. Okay. So Dallas is number 1. Any guesses about number 2?
I'm going to go with another Texas city. Houston?
Houston is number 4.
Okay.
Houston is number 4 with 1% of our listeners. So Dallas is 1.3. Houston is 1%. The second city has always been one of our top cities.
Atlanta.
Atlanta is number 5.
Okay,
so that was
Nashville.
A good guess.
I'm just going to keep guessing.
No, not Nashville.
I remember when Shreveport, which is not a huge town, it was like 50% of Shreveport was listening to us, and I was like, Shreveport, we love you. That was awesome. It was not the sheer number, it was the percentage per capita of Shreveport that listened to us that I was like, way to go, Shreveport.
When we had like 25 listeners, we would get wild. Like there was that one little town in Washington.
Yes.
Like something Lake, Washington. There's like 5,000 people who live there. But
I think it was a book club. They pushed us over the top.
Exactly. Anyways, so number 2, you still haven't guessed it. You got number 2 and number 3 left.
Okay, San Antonio or Austin?
No, all the Texas. This is the Texas cities.
Oh, Texas is out now. Oh, Texas is out. Okay. Now I don't know. Now I'm like, that's got to be California, right? L.A.
No, I think California must be spread out. L.A. Okay, L.A. is number 6. L.A. is number 6.
I'm not totally off base here. That you got to tell me number 2. I have no idea.
Chicago, Illinois.
Yeah, Chicago's been very good to us.
Yeah, Austin's down there a bit. Okay, and then number 3. Do you want me to just tell you what number 3 is?
Tell me number 3.
Charlotte, North Carolina. North Carolina.
I knew that Charlotte folks had good taste.
So I'll give you like the rest. I'll give you the next, the next 20 or whatever. The top 25. So Los Angeles, Melbourne.
Wait,
I don't know. They tried to tell me how to pronounce it before. Yeah.
Really? Australia made one of the top cities.
Yeah, I mean, wow. Australia, we
got to go to Australia, y'all.
Yeah.
Please invite us. I want to come.
New York City is next, then Sydney.
Wow.
So
Sydney?
Like 2 Australian cities.
Okay, you know what? We got to make it. Maybe not if 2025 doesn't work out because, I don't know, it's hard to travel with baby, I assume. 2026 maybe?
Look, if they ever do a Crime Con Australia, I'm there. Okay, Denver is next. Looking forward to going to Denver for Crime Con. Philadelphia, Seattle, Phoenix, San Antonio, Indianapolis, Toronto, Brisbane. I think that's how we're supposed to pronounce it, right? Not Brisbane.
Mm-hmm.
Brisbane. Washington, D.C., Portland, Oregon, St. Louis, Missouri, Minneapolis, Minnesota. Assume that's all Sophie. Kansas City, Missouri, Brooklyn, New York, which I didn't realize they broke Brooklyn and New York City up. I thought Brooklyn would have been part of New York City.
Yeah.
Huh. So what is New York City? Is that just Manhattan?
I guess so.
Wow. Okay. Austin, Texas, Fort Worth, Texas. They actually break Dallas and Fort Worth up. So if you combine Dallas and Fort Worth,
they'd definitely be number 1.
Well, they are. Dallas is number 1 anyway, but that would add another chunk. Omaha, Columbus, Ohio, Dublin. So
can I say
there you go.
That's a really impressive list because it's all over the country. Really all over the world, but like it's not like all the Texas cities or all the California cities. That's amazing.
Yeah. So
again, I don't know how people find us, but I kind of love it.
Did I say Boston? Boston was ahead of Omaha.
I don't think you had said Boston.
I said that. Yeah. Shout out to Boston. Okay, so there you go. Okay, so with that, Alice, have you thought about your favorite cases that we covered this year? You can mention any number you want to.
We did, so I obviously have to remind myself what we covered this year, but in scrolling through this past year, it really was like a walk down memory lane because we obviously, especially when we do multi-part cases, which there were several this year, it really becomes part of our whole beings because we cover it for so many weeks in a row. If we record multiple episodes in 1 week, it's like all consuming to my mind. And it's a little bit wistful to look back on it because I remember the Karen Reed period of my life. It was a long period of my life. It was a frustrating period. But the one that really stood out to me this year for a lot of reasons was the Robert Wong case. That was very early in the year, actually. I couldn't remember if it was this year or last year. And the reason it stood out to me so much is because that is a case it touches our social circles. We are 1 degree separated. I did not know Robert Wong, but Brett and I are kind of the same cohort and era in terms of law school graduation and people who worked at those same law firms as him. And so it feels so close to home. It felt so needless. It feels completely solvable. And we know exactly who did it, but justice hasn't been served yet. And there are still people very much hurting to this day who were very close to him, who were kind enough to speak to us and kind of humanize this whole tragedy for us. And it's one of those cases where justice is like literally within reach. And I believe it will be reached. And when we cover those types of cases, I'm hopeful, because I'm hopeful that our cases are not just for us to talk into a microphone, that maybe it will reach the right ears and something can happen. It doesn't have to be because of us, but by shedding light on it, that justice that I think is attainable will be attained soon.
Yeah, Robert Wone is definitely, we did a lot of cases that were really impactful to me, really hit me a lot. Several of the cases we did this year, more so, I would say, than usual. Like, there are cases that I think of that we did that have always stuck with me. Aisha Degree, for instance, which, the thing I remember about this year is the break in that case, which hopefully next year, or by the end of this year, you never know, but next year, I think, if we haven't heard something by the end of this year, next year could be the year we solve the Aisha Degree case. Not we, but the police solve the Aisha Degree case. So I'm hopeful for that. But yeah, there were a lot of cases that we did this year that meant a lot to me. Robert Wone was a big one. And like you said, not only because it is an incredible mystery, but also it felt so close. And it was one of those cases where it just seemed like this bizarre thing that happened and this horrible tragedy could really have happened to anybody, and the reason for that is because we all have friends and we all assume that we're safe with them, right? And Robert should have been in a safe place. Like, this wasn't, he went into the deepest, darkest forest and disappeared in the middle of the Amazon jungle. And you're kind of like, well, I mean, that kind of happens sometimes when you go into the Amazon jungle. You're sort of taking your life in your own hands, right? Or Dyatlov Pass, or on the side of a mountain in the blizzard, right? He had made it to the safe place. He was in the place where he should have been able to lay down his head, go to sleep, and know that he was completely safe. And yet he's murdered, most likely by the people he trusted the most. And so that hit me a lot. I think some runners-up for me, Leo Schofield, which we did at the beginning of this year and put a lot into. Number one, it was a ton of work. We did a lot of research in that case, really dug into that case. And it was one of those where a lot of the cases we do, I know where we're going to end up, right? I mean, because either it's a mystery, so we're going to end up saying we hope people will help solve it, or it's pretty obvious what happened. But that one, going into it, could have gone either way. And it was the twists and turns and seeing how all the evidence lined up to his innocence. It is always incredible. Like, I really enjoyed that. And it was good to see him get out of prison. That was nice.
I just wanted to talk about Leo. Yes, I mean, that is right up there with Robert Wone as well. What really struck me, and that took, like you said, a lot of work, because there was huge case files, which Gilbert King, he did the podcast on Leo Schofield, and he shared so much of this research with us, and it was an enormous amount of work. And that interaction in and of itself was so incredible, because it showed how there is a good side of true crime, right? That we are all in it to try and reach the truth. And we knew how his podcast came out. I listened to it. It was amazing. But I will say, when we first started researching the case, I kind of thought we'd come out the other way, to be completely honest, because this had been a case that had been upheld and there had been a trial. There were all these things. And usually these types of cases, when there's innocence movements behind them, there's something that's been left out of trial transcripts or something like that. So I fully expected, to be honest, once I read all the trial transcripts, it would either be a closed case, or I could see why some people would think that there was a wrongful conviction, but I would probably reach the fact that no, there's enough evidence there. Hindsight's 20/20, but there's probably making a lot of hay about nothing. And because I went into it with it, and then obviously we did not come out that way after looking at all the evidence, it was incredible. Because a lot of you have asked, have you ever looked, you think everyone's guilty, or you're prosecutors, we know how you're going to come out. I mean, that's not how I approach my job ever. That's not how I've ever approached any legal case. And that's not how we approach our research on these types of cases. We have our experiences, and we have we understand the arguments that are often made on the other side that often fail on appeal. We often see kind of the dark side of true crime when there is there's a lot of attention paid for innocence claims when there's really nothing there, which is sometimes a waste of resources when those resources can be used elsewhere. And so we've seen all that, and taking those experiences here, it was amazing to see how someone who had researched this case for a very long time didn't hold their own research with tight fists, but rather the purpose of doing that research was for justice. And so he held it with open hands. And that's a scary thing for any researcher or journalist to do, because you don't know what we're going to do with that material, right? You don't know how we're going to come out with it. And so the experience for me was it was a roller coaster ride. It was an emotional roller coaster ride of living through Leo Schofield's case file as if I was on the case from the beginning. And you don't always get that experience because you don't get a whole case file before you usually live a part of the case. So that was a great experience to see a case from beginning all the way to, and we're not quite at the end yet, but to a prosecutor doesn't typically get to live that entire life of the case the way that we did in recording Leo Schofield.
And the one thing about Leo Schofield, and I think I'll say this. Yeah, people often say we think everybody's guilty. And I think one thing that people need to realize is most people who are convicted by a jury are guilty. They are guilty. And they're guilty regardless of how many podcasts want to poke holes in their guilt. They're guilty regardless of their protestations of their innocence. And that's just a fact. And that's why Leo's case was interesting. And really, I think, is a blueprint for real innocence claims. Because if you look at Leo's case, why was he convicted? Number one, because arguably he was a bad dude, right? Arguably he was abusive with Michelle, and he was the usual suspect. He was the guy that we all think of who does it, right? What's the old joke? The husband did it. I mean, that's what we say in true crime, right? Wife ends up dead, girlfriend ends up dead. The first person you're looking at is the husband or the boyfriend. And then when you look at the husband or the boyfriend and you see that he's abusive, what are you going to say? Oh, well, we know who did this, right? So that was the first thing. He was somebody who you would think is the kind of person who would do this, which means you're probably going to get a little bit of tunnel vision in your investigation. Number two, most of the case was based on unreliable eyewitnesses. Eyewitnesses whose stories changed, eyewitnesses who didn't come forward for a year later. That was the bulk of the prosecution story. And not only was it not backed up with forensics, you don't always have forensics. Sometimes, you just don't have the evidence you would like, whether it's the fingerprints, or the DNA, or the blood, or whatever. But in this case, it was contradictory forensics. In the place where you should have all the blood, there was no blood. In the place where there shouldn't be any blood, there was a ton of blood, which made you think the story we're being told probably isn't true. And you had just enough malfeasance on the part of law enforcement. This wasn't a case where you needed law enforcement to be framing Leo every step of the way, where every piece of evidence had to be planted and every single witness had to be coached and, like you see in a lot of these cases. You just needed a prosecutor who was zealous enough that he was willing to talk to those unreliable eyewitnesses and either sort of guide them in the direction to where their stories eventually fit, or tell them straight up, look, this guy did it and I need you to help me. And they were willing to provide that. That is the kind of sort of law enforcement conspiracy type thing that I think is much more realistic than what you see in a lot of these innocence cases. So that was what I thought was also really interesting about Leo, is I do think it's a blueprint for real innocence cases. And when you contrast it to some of the more famous innocence cases and you see how different they are, I think it also is a lesson for people out there. And Joe mentioned, and I had forgot about this, we ended up on 2020 talking about.
Oh, was that this
Leo
year?
Schofield. That was this year. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Wow. A lot happened this year. Like podcast and podcast tangential that I kind of forgot about. That's crazy.
Alice
we wrote
added
two op-eds.
New podcasts to her repertoire.
Forgot about that.
Yeah. American Justice and City Confidential. And then,
and
we've written a few op-eds now. We're getting into the writing thing.
We've been on, several shows, not just Court TV now. I mean, yeah, we had Nancy Grace on.
We had Nancy Grace on the show. That was awesome.
What?
Did some great interviews this year. We really did.
Yeah, there were
had
some
fantastic interviews.
And just so you know, the way these interviews work, we are very bad business people. If you can't tell by our Patreon non-tiers, by the way, if you're listening to this, we had resisted having a Patreon page at all, and truly started a Patreon page because so many people asked if they could just send us money in the mail. And I was like, don't do that. That's like really fraught. Please don't send cash in the mail. So we kind of started one at the request of people, but they're all the same tiers. You can give like a cent. You can give $10. You can give $1. Like, they're all the same. There's no tiers. You get the same material no matter what. This shows you how we're bad business people. But how these interviews work, and this really took off this year, is for the most part, we are not reaching out to people for interviews because we're just not that organized. Maybe if we like quit our day jobs and had time to plan things, we would actually be able to plan interviews. But almost all of these interviews are reach outs to us, which is incredible because we have some incredible interviewees, and I can't believe they want to give their time to, by the way, record on our time, which is like late at night after our kids have gone to bed, and we're like, I'm recording in my closet, my ever-changing backdrop of closets, and they all show up super professional with like professional lighting, and I'm like, well, sorry about my closet, guys. But I think that is incredible because either you guys are reaching out to these people and saying, hey, we'd love to hear you on the Prosecutors, or they're hearing about our podcast and just asking to be on the show, which I think is incredibly humbling that they want to give their time. So I just wanted to put that out there. So if there's people you want to hear us interview, let us know, but also maybe let them know because we do get requests and we really almost always say yes.
We've got sort of a backlog of interviews right now. Some of you haven't even heard. I don't know if this one will have come out yet, but one of the more interesting ones we just did was an interview with Judge Belvin Perry, who was the judge in the Casey Anthony case. He's written a book called The Velvet Hammer, which you should go pick up. And, you know, they reached out and were like, hey, would you be interested in talking to the judge in the Casey Anthony case? And it's like, yeah, we're interested in talking to him. So, you know, stuff like that. It's been a lot of fun. And yeah, those have been tremendous. So moving on from Leo Schofield, that's actually not my favorite case we did. Another honorable mention, Judy Martins, which I really liked that case because it was one that is not covered at all, but it was really interesting. There wasn't a whole lot of information to it, but the information you had was just fascinating. And I really felt like that was a case with a little bit more attention could be solved. So I enjoyed that one. It almost felt like a throwback to some of the cases we've done in the past. So I really like that one. And hopefully we can do more cases like that in the future.
I know what your favorite one is. I'm not going to give it away, but it's so cute that this is your favorite case. I'm guessing it has to be your favorite case.
Well, my favorite case that we did this year was D.B. Cooper.
Of course.
Which I loved. I mean, we went into that kind of like,
can I just embarrass you for a second?
The kids wanted to do it. Go ahead. Yes.
Can I just embarrass you for a second?
Away.
Oh, my goodness. Well, first of all, it was such a great case because you're right. The kids really picked the case. And of course, we're talking about Lidditz Elementary, who has, I mean, they have been such a great supporter of the podcast. So this year, because we got our act together a little bit more, we usually do a case with them via Zoom, and they do all the research and we talk to them via Zoom. But this year we flew into Lidditz, Pennsylvania, which is truly like right around Amish country. It's not a big city at all. I think we had to fly to a mid-sized airport, drive like an hour and a half to get there, but it was so worth it. And they treated us like celebrities, which was so sweet. Played music for us, did a version of our theme song that so many of you one-star reviewers hate. They loved it. They made it their parent-teacher assembly song that they performed for their concert. You guys, I'm getting teary-eyed remembering all this. But they picked the case, meaning we did not pick this case. And you guys, it's not, Brett is a Renaissance man. We all know this. He knows everything about everything. And I do not say that facetiously. I have to research things. Brett just knows things off the top of his head. I don't know how he does it, but he does. I think he like sleeps on encyclopedias and it's absorbed into his brain. So I didn't realize that Brett wasn't like this massive D.B. Cooper fan, that it was only through this research that he learned about him. And y'all, once he researches something, he grasps on, and I truly believe you are in the presence of D. Brett Cooper. He is no longer Brett. It has become part of him. We left this case behind 6 months ago. It's still with him. I can't have a conversation with him without him texting me something about D.B. Cooper. So I just wanted to embarrass you for a second because it's really cute how much you love D.B. Cooper.
It was just a great case. I mean, that one for me, it became like the new Dyatlov Pass for me. Like, I just really got into it, really enjoyed it. It was so much fun. Hope you guys enjoyed it too. I mean, we spent a lot of time on it. Not as much as we did Karen Reed, which is not going to be in my top 3 of cases we did, but I think, frankly, is the defining case of this year. It's hard for it not to be the Karen Reed case. But yeah, DB Cooper was so much fun. I enjoyed that so much, and I hope you guys enjoyed it too. Makes me want to go back and listen to it again. You know, just a terrific case. I hope DB's listening right now. Cheers to you, DB.
And I think we shared this at the time that we were recording this, but like the Lidditz Elementary students also, first of all, they did a great job researching, as they always do. Like, talk about having some great teachers, but they drew these amazing DB Cooper pictures, like artwork for us. I mean, like we have dozens of them, and they're so good. First of all, I'm not even that good at drawing, and these kids sure are. So like I don't really have a podcast studio, but my closet is like plastered with this artwork from these kids. So DB Cooper's like ever present in my mind as well, because we have fantastic artwork from the kids. And yes, Brett loved them so much he wouldn't give me any at first.
I gave you some. You got
Finally.
some. Yeah, whatever. Alice is always making claims. So, anyways, big fan of DB Cooper. Oh, Sophie is brave enough. She stepped up. She's going to ask a question. Hello, Sophie.
Hi.
Oh, Sophie is brave enough. She stepped up.
Hello. Oh, thank you.
Sophie always has
I'm sorry, my volume was down.
Your volume sounds great to me.
We hear you.
Oh, okay.
Amazingly.
Well, first of all, I just wanted to say hi.
Hi.
And I'm super excited because I finally got to meet you guys in person this year.
Yeah, and it was amazing. Yeah, CrimeCon was fantastic.
It was a good time. And thank you for all the lives, all the time, and all your time. I know you both are really busy, and we appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate you guys. Like, I sent the link for this like 15 minutes before we did it, and there's 100 of you here. So
that was my fault. Sorry, I pushed it back. But Sophie, okay, she's like underselling it. So we got to meet Sophie and so many of you in person after having gotten to talk to you, you know, on these lives. Sophie, like literally, I think she brought me water and snacks and gummy bears every hour on the hour, along with many of you who are in the chat here. We truly have the best friends. I can't even say like listeners, because it wasn't just about like meeting us. I mean, thank you, Sophie. That was like so incredibly touching. And she also drew me the best cheese artwork in the world. It's right. You can't see it right here. My kids actually call it my cheese wall. But that's what's so awesome about this community is you guys seem to have formed real friendships with each other that go beyond the podcast, and you share it with us. I mean, this podcast has just exceeded my wildest dreams in terms of community.
And you guys may not know this, but Sophie is an incredibly talented person. She can do just about anything. And if you've been on the store recently, Sophie is probably responsible for half of the designs of the various shirts and everything else we have. She's amazing. She's right up there. You know, Hannah does our episode art. Sophie is incredibly talented when it comes to
God, just telling the secrets.
Oh, well, you know, it has to come out sometime.
But that's all. I just wanted to say hi and express my love for you guys and the thanks for all the time that you give us. So that was all I had.
Thank you, Sophie. Truly, thank you. You reminded me actually of something else that we came up with this year, the hat of hate.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's true. That was this year. We need to do some more of those.
Yeah,
we do. We are very bad at staying on things, but
we have so
I love
many.
the one-star reviews.
So send them my way, and we'll jazz them up for you guys.
Awesome.
Thank you, Sophie.
All right,
so
Sophie.
good to see you.
Okay, so we've got a bunch of questions that you guys have been sending in, the 5-star questions, and we thought this was a good time to maybe catch up on a few and answer some of them. I thought this one was interesting. This is from Jen. And I assume it's a she, it could be a guy. They want to know what we think about the difference between the Idaho case and the Delphi case, both their incarceration and sort of the way those cases have progressed and everything else, in both cases, you kind of have small towns handling a really big case. And what do we think about the difference? I think that's a pretty fascinating question, actually. I would say I think one of the differences is the perpetrators, the accused. Now, Brian Koberger, innocent or guilty, has never seemed bothered by the whole fact that he is being accused of a quadruple murder. Like, he does not seem to be having any mental health issues. He's seems perfectly fine, whereas it seems like Richard Allen very quickly began to devolve, which I think is one of the reasons in that case you see so many confessions. I mean, he just, whatever mental walls he had built up, assuming he's guilty, over the period where he was free came crashing down once he was arrested. So I think that's one of the issues, is just the difference between the two of them is pretty stark.
And I think another issue is the amount of time that passed in between the murders and the arrest. So obviously we know that in Delphi, the murders occurred in 2017 and an arrest wasn't made until 2022. In that period of time, we've talked about this a lot, when there are vacuums of information, especially in this day and age, and a very robust true crime online community, a lot of people fill the void. And unfortunately, those filling the void, just in general, because anyone can have a microphone, anyone can be on YouTube, anyone can be on Reddit, you get a lot of armchair detectives who can create a lot more harm than good. So we saw a lot in the Delphi case with false side-by-side images on Facebook, like literally pulling someone's Facebook profile, someone you don't know, and saying, doesn't it look like this sketch? And that was really rampant for not just a couple months, a couple years, but like half a decade. And it became kind of a life of its own that had nothing to do with the actual case, but there were enough kind of vacuums of information. And whether that was because the investigation was, the press conferences put out too little information, too much information, not enough, all those things, we can analyze that all day long. But I think just the fact when you have a very, very hot murder in terms of people's attention on it, and then you have no information for 5, 6, 7 years, people's imaginations start going wild. People start making wild accusations. They start looking at each other askance in a small town. And there are things that are hard to overcome after 5 years of essentially conspiracy theories and false information that Idaho didn't have to go through because an arrest was made relatively close in time to the murders.
And this is a fascinating point that Alice makes. I think it goes to sort of this project we've been talking about, of how true crime can really have negative effects. Moscow was headed that way. You saw some of it. You know, you had the crazy TikToker who claimed it was one of the teachers did it.
Yeah.
A professor, yeah, and she had a psychic vision, right? You had people saying it was the DoorDash guy. You had people saying it was the surviving roommates. This was starting to spin up. Imagine if it had taken 5 years to find Brian Koberger. Imagine how much people would have invested in those theories. And then Brian Koberger gets arrested, and he's just like some random dude from the area. And I think you really see that in Delphi. A lot of the people who don't think Richard Allen was guilty, they don't actually believe some of the things you've heard. Like the whole Odinist thing is an aside. Most of the people, and you're just going to take my word for it on this, but most of the people who push the Odinist thing don't believe the Odinist thing. They just think Richard Allen's not guilty, and they want him to be acquitted so we can move on to the real killers, right? A lot of them were incredibly invested in various other suspects. So whether it's Keegan Kline or Ron Logan. Like Ron Logan, a lot of people were just so convinced it was Ron Logan. So once Richard Allen was arrested, they were never going to accept that. It didn't matter what the evidence was because they were so invested. And I think the fact that that built up so much is one of the reasons you see people who just refuse to really even consider the possibility that Richard Allen is the one who did it. And you just didn't have as much time for that in Moscow. You still have some people some Brian Koberger stands, right? Who, they think, there's no way that they could have that little DNA with someone who killed 4 different people. And all the DNA we have is this little bit of DNA on this clasp of a knife sheath, right? So there must be some explanation for that. When in reality, and I would hope that people are starting to see this and understand this, it is not always the case, or even usually the case, that you have a lot of DNA or any DNA in these cases. In the Delphi case, there's no DNA of the killer. The girls were murdered. Someone murdered the girls, and they did it without leaving any DNA behind. So the fact that we're not seeing DNA doesn't mean whoever is arrested didn't do it, right? Someone killed those kids in Moscow, and the fact that we only have a little bit of DNA isn't an argument that Kohberger didn't do it, right? So it's interesting to see how people's minds work when they really want it to not be the case. It's not even a innocent until proven guilty thing. They are invested in it being someone else in these big cases. And that's one of the problems when these cases have all this attention, you just see these sort of sidelines start to develop that you don't necessarily see in the run-of-the-mill case that we hear about. Maybe we hear about it when it goes to trial, and then people start paying attention. But you don't have all these conspiracies develop like you do with these long-running cases. Okay, let's see. I want to do a good one here.
They're all good, Brett. They're all good.
They're all good. There's just so many of them. I'll ask you this one, Alice. I can't really think of. Well, I have a. Okay, so this is from Lowpops12. Wants to know, what is the worst thing that has ever happened during one of your trials?
Worst thing? Huh.
I know what I'm going to say.
Okay, go ahead, because there's a couple that I'm sorting through.
So Alice and I had this one trial. It was very long. It lasted for about a month. And there were a number of co-conspirators who had flipped. And one of them I was doing the direct on. And this guy, so the judge in this case, I can tell you about this now because this case is completely closed. The judge in this case is like a lion of the bench. He's been on the bench since the 70s. He's the first African-American judge in our district, maybe in the state. I think in the state, just titan of the law, knows, more about the law and the history of the civil rights movement and everything else than anybody in the country.
They will probably make a movie about him. Truly.
Yeah, they probably will. And this case involved some people who were essentially diverting money from the Black Belt in Alabama to other parts of the state. And the Black Belt is the sort of middle part of the state. It's named for its fertile soil because the soil is so rich that it's black. And it's a lot of the plantations were there, the farming, the peanut farms, like everything when you think about agriculture in Alabama is in this area. So this guy, he's one of our witnesses, and he's hostile in the weirdest way because he had such a high opinion of himself, right? And he never, even though he pled guilty, and even though he clearly was part of this, he never really considered himself to be a bad guy, right? And so
I think he showed up in like a bow tie, for example.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm trying to get him up and down. We need him to say what he's going to say because he's an important witness, but not a guy you want to do a lot of talking.
Not likable.
Not likable at all. But the problem is he, at some point, I don't know how, I can't even remember how we got to this, but at some point he starts talking about the Black Belt. And he's like, and he looks at the jury and he's like, and we all know why it's called the Black Belt. And the judge, who,
by the way, this is relevant. It's a white witness who is wearing a bow tie and like a seersucker suit and looks the part of someone who'd be saying this.
And so the judge sort of perks up at this point and does the thing that you never want to happen. He's like, counsel, hold on a minute. And he turns to him and he starts questioning him. And he's like, so you mentioned the Black Belt. Why is it called the Black Belt? Which he knows why it's really called the Black Belt. And the guy's like, well, because there's so many black people who live there. And
which is not the answer.
And the judge is like, okay, go on. And then the guy just starts saying all this stuff that's like, yeah, and there's no restaurants there. I mean, there's like nothing there. Like everybody has to eat at a gas station. That's like the best place they can get food. And just saying all this horrible stuff.
There's so much racist stuff coming out.
There's nothing I can do because I'm not asking him questions anymore. The judge has now taken over. And so the judge is asking these questions.
He has this gleam. The judge has this gleam in his eye. He is having the time of his life. Like the time of his life.
And the witness is totally oblivious to how he's sounding. And I'm just like,
the jury literally, because if you live in Alabama, it's on Wikipedia why it's called the black belt. The jury's mouth is physically hanging open, and they're like watching a tennis match, and they're like, some are giggling because it is so embarrassing, and like everyone in the courtroom is just like clawing their eyes out.
It was rough. It was.
I forgot about that.
It was not great. And the thing is, if it were cross-examination, I could have been like, objection to your honor, this is not relevant. We don't really need to be going into this, the history of the black belt. But you can't do that when it's the judge asking the questions. So that was a difficult moment. And we ended up winning the case. So it worked out. But that was...
Man, I forgot about that one. I'm not going to say that case drove me out of my prosecutor life, but it took a lot of years off my life.
Yeah. It did.
Well, this is not the worst thing. That a lot of interesting things have happened in trial. I think you guys have heard the story about how I went into labor in trial, so I'm not going to tell that one unless you want to hear it. But another funny story, because that trial, man, that was so fun. That was a tough time, Brett. But I'm glad we did it together. But this is not the worst, but it was hilarious. This just tells you about this trial. So another one of our key witnesses is like good old football coach. Just think of like this big stocky guy, and he's just like, this is how he talks. Like, I don't know if he smoked a lot of pipes or something, but like, this is what we talk.
If y'all know Ed Orgeron, he is Ed Orgeron's twin brother. Looks like him, sounds like him. Football.
I'm not kidding. Like, this is how he talks every time. And like, when I walked in the room, he'd be like, hey, little lady. Like, I think he called me little lady for like 3 years straight, right? I don't think he knew I was on the team. He was like, hey, little lady, you doing okay? And I mean, we were like investigating this case in the midst of COVID, and we were trying to be really respectful. We would do interviews out in the open air on the side of the streets, because like we didn't want to go into a room. And he would just like walk into a room and be like, I'm not scared of no COVID. You know what I mean? And, like coughing on me. And I'm like, yes, sir. Okay. And he was a jolly old guy. I mean, also like a felon, but not before we got to him. And so he has a lot of relevant information, but this man can't remember anything. Like, I mean, he's got a lot of stories. He tells football stories all day long. He could tell you the score of every single high school football team that ever happened since the 1970s, but he can't tell you like in a straightforward way how he, uses his bank account, for example, things that are important for like a money laundering case. And so he's on the stand for like 3 days straight. I mean, I know we just covered a lot of trials, the Karen Reed case, the Delphi trial, where certain witnesses, are on the stand all day, and people are like, this was the longest day of my life because this witness testified for 8 hours. He testified for like 28 hours straight in that voice, talking like that. And so there's one point we have to show that his cell phone pings match where he's going. And we take out this map of small town, nowheres, Alabama. I'm talking like no traffic lights. And we're like, can you explain? And all we need him to say is that the cell phone pings are accurate. This is as simple as, well, we have your cell phone. Do these match where you were that day? Or just in general, these are the areas that you live. Do these cell phone pings match? All you had to do was say, yep, it's pinging all around where I work, where I eat, where I live. That all looks good. Instead, he gets off the stand, which you're never allowed to do. He doesn't ask the judge. He just gets off the stand. He's hard of hearing. And every question he's like, come again. Say that a little louder. Sorry, little lady, can't hear you.
Yeah, he forgot his like.
He had a hearing aid.
He had hearing aids, but he forgot them when he was testifying, so he couldn't hear anything.
And so he gets off the stand, and the judge is kind of like, yeah, whatever, just get off the stand. And he walks up to this like small town back roads map, and he's like, anybody got a pen? And the court reporter's like, hands him like an Expo, dry erase marker, and he goes, all right. And he starts drawing on this board as if he's drawing out a football play for his football team. Like, quite literally, with like the circles and the X's. And like, so you start out over here, you just drive down this road, you're going to go keep going, you can see some cows, and you're going to see this fence post. That's where my granddad is buried, right here. Right here. He's buried right there. Don't ask me why it's my fence post. Then we take a right, we'll see a real hard right here. And then you see that's where I met him. I gave him all the money. Oh, yeah, that son of a bitch. I said the bitch. I definitely give him money right there. And he talks
at one point, he says, you ever drive down the road, like this stop sign right here, there's always a state trooper sitting right there. So you need to slow down if you're coming down the highway this way. And wasn't there that day. And it's like, this
is real testimony. This is on the transcript. And you can't tell what's on the map at all. This is an exhibit that is entered into evidence that goes back with the jury, right? And there's just black marker, all of it with X's in it. It's like, and right here, that's where we're on the state championship. We're proud of that one. I can't wear it anymore because of that diabetes. So I got a little swell, so I have some nails here, you know? Oh, God, I love those football days. You know, do you ever play football? You guys definitely play football. I mean, we can't stop him. Like, everyone's like just looking at him. And so this goes on. Again, all we needed for him to say was, yeah, I lived where the cell phone says I'm pinging. This is like not relevant for anything else. And we try to redirect him. He cannot be redirected whatsoever. This goes on. And then the defense is like, what? What is happening? And so he asked him to repeat something. You should never ask a witness like this to repeat anything. So he goes, I don't remember what I said. Let me go up to this nice lady. I think she's been writing down everything I said. And he takes a knee next to her, this little old lady who's been typing everything he's saying frantically, the court reporter. And he like puts his massive football arm on this little old lady's shoulder. I thought she was like, she literally fell over a little bit and she's still trying to type. And she goes, darling, what did I say? Can you read it back to me?
Yeah, I mean, it was something. And like I said, he goes on for 3 days and he kept everything related back to football. It was always like, well, you know, when you're on a football field, because he was like the right-hand man to the main guy, right? So there were two main guys. One guy pled guilty. We're on trial with the other guy. And, you know, we're asking questions like, so when they told you to do this, did you know it was illegal? Yes. Why'd you do it? Well, you know, when you're on a football team, the head coach tells you to do something, you may not agree with him. But if you're just a defense coordinator, I'm a defense coordinator. And a defense coordinator, you're going to do what he says, even if you don't think it's the right thing to do. And it's like, it was always like that. He was always going back. He's like, you ever played quarterback?
Do you see why Brett and I are such good friends? This is what we do. This is our real life job.
And so when he's drawing this stuff on the map, like I can't help from laughing. We're
crying.
His lawyer comes up afterwards and he's mad at me. He's like, I saw you laughing when Coach was testifying. And I was like, are you kidding? Of course I was laughing. Like everyone was laughing. What do you mean? It was just.
It was terrible in the sense that like this is a really long trial. We've always told you if the trial goes long, the jury's gonna blame the prosecution. But like there was nothing you could do. He was actually kind of lovable, even though he was doing something really terrible. But like, oh man, that was. Whew. I think we were all cry laughing. We couldn't hold it back. You have to be professional. There was no room for professionalism that day.
He ended up spending the rest of the day on his knees next to the court reporter because he couldn't hear and he couldn't see anything. And at one point,
and then his glasses fogged up.
Yeah, they fogged up. So at one point, the defense actually objects, and they're like, "Your Honor, this is very unusual for him to be doing this. He needs to be testifying from the stand." And we're just like, "Okay, man." And so he goes back up to the stand, and it becomes very obvious, like. This is not going to work. And we kind of look at the defense attorney, and they're just like, whatever.
Once he went up there, it was like, sir, can you state your name? What? Was that again? Come again? Yeah. I'm sorry, honey, you're going to have to get closer. And finally, the other side was like, just come back down. Take a knee.
Yeah, it was wild. It was wild. At one point, during cross-examination, at one point, you know, the defense attorney trying to get him to break. And they're like, you're really proud of yourself, aren't you? Like, you're really proud of what you did. And he's like, yeah, I'm proud of what I did. Like, everybody's here because of me. And the defense attorney's like, oh, you think you're the reason we're here? And he's like, are you asking me whether or not they'd have been able to prosecute these people without me? And the defense attorney's like, yeah. And he's like, you betcha. It was.
It was a wild cast of characters.
Should have been
y'all.
televised.
I don't know how they pulled off the scheme for so many years, but I don't know. That was real funny. So after that one, I was like, I got to take a knee. I got to leave practice.
Yeah, that was wild. I just remember thinking, if this jury hangs and we have to do this again, like, man, I don't know that I can. I'm retiring.
I literally was like, I'm retiring if we have to do this trial again, because there's no way.
This might have been an instance. We always talk about you only need one, and people are sometimes like, well, what does that even mean? One just means you're hung jury, and they just try you again. That's true, and there are cases like the Karen Reed case where you're going to go through all that rigmarole because it's a murder trial. But a lot of times, if you have a hung jury, you just kind of say,
I don't think I can do this again.
I don't think I can do this again. We gave it our best shot.
I don't think I can do it again.
We're moving on.
It was the whole experience. It was investigating it during COVID, and the number of we drove to some backwater places
all over the state.
I thought we were going to die so many times because we didn't go inside buildings. So we were literally interviewing people like on the side of trailer parks, like quite
or in
literally.
abandoned buildings.
Abandoned buildings completely.
Yeah.
It was wild. It was wild.
I mean, we had like FBI agents with us who were all armed. So, presumably we would survive the shootout, but
we were in parts of the country that I don't know that they'd be deterred by FBI agents. Let me say it that way.
Yeah. Okay. Well, guys, this has been fun. It's been a fun year. We hope you guys have enjoyed it as much as we have. We plan on doing this for as long as you guys will continue to listen to us. So hopefully you'll keep listening, keep telling your friends, keep growing the podcast. We have all sorts of opportunities because of you guys, and we really appreciate you. We wouldn't be here without you, and I hope you know that. And it was nice, Sophie telling us how much she appreciates the time we put into this, but we recognize very much that without your time and your commitment and your support, we wouldn't be here. So this has been an incredible ride. I can't believe we're going into our 5th year. Is that next year?
Can't believe it.
It's wild.
Wow. Yeah. Oh, wow. Because again, I really have had like 3 children during this podcast. This started with baby number 2 maternity leave.
Yep.
Wow.
That's right. It sure did. And, it's just wild. You guys have seen us live our lives, so it's incredible. Okay. Well, we want to hear from you. As we always say, you guys drive the podcast. Let us know what you want to hear. Send us an email, prosecutorspod@gmail.com. Join us on all the various social medias at prosecutorspod. Join us on the gallery. We have a lot of great discussions there. Follow us on TikTok. Join us on Patreon. If you're listening to this now on the eve of Christmas with snow falling outside your window, you could be watching this live before it's even had Halloween. We're still celebrating Halloween here while you guys are celebrating Christmas. And of course, you would get these episodes early and ad-free, even if you didn't take part in the live recordings. Well, Alice, is there anything else you want to say before we sign off for this episode and for 2024? We will have some more episodes to fill out the rest of the year, but they're going to be blooper episodes. So this is the last time we're going to talk to you live this year. Anything to add, Alice?
I don't know. Maybe 'tis the season. It's actually the week of Halloween, but pretending it's Christmas. I'm so grateful. I really am so grateful for you, Brett. I'm so grateful for all of you for giving us the opportunity to do something that was meant to be never heard by the world. And because of you, we keep doing it. And I just cannot believe this is where our life is right now, that we've made thousands of friends around the world who truly enrich our lives, make us better lawyers, make us better people because of how you challenge us and how we look at these cases, and getting to be a part of something bigger than ourselves. We've always said we do this because we hope it sheds light on worthy cases, on victims, on stories that need to be told. And I think that's still our aim and what we do. And I feel really lucky to get to do this, and I get to do it with my best friend too. So thank you guys so much. Thanks, Brett, for making me do this almost 5 years ago. I'm really glad you were really persistent.
Yes, Alice, you mean the world to me, and I'm so glad we're doing this together. If I was doing this with anybody else, I wouldn't have made it 5 years. I can tell you that much. But I look forward to every single recording that we do. It is some of the best times. This podcast is one of the best things that ever happened to me. So thank you for making that possible. Okay, guys. Well, we will see you in 2025. But until then, I'm Brett.
And I'm Alice.
And we are the Prosecutors.
Sometimes
turn your volume up just a little bit.
I was gonna say my volume has been.
It's been a little low lately.
You know what? It got turned down. That's why.
There you go.
I don't know who turned it down, but it did. Sorry about that. I saw someone complain.
That's okay.
All right, it did get turned down. I don't know who turned it down. I mean, there are a lot of chillins running around here. So.
Yeah, I have a few suspects. I'm gonna go ahead and go live.
Okay, a couple chillins.
Okay. You ready?
I'm ready. Is this prosecutors or legal briefs?
Yeah, prosecutors.
Okay, perfect. Dude. Sorry.
Okay.
I've been on a field trip all day. I'm so tired.
Okay.
Oh.
Now look, we'll probably record more.
We'll probably record. Don't worry. We're not gonna.
Yeah, I mean, we'll probably be recording for 2025 in like December.
That's why we're so thankful for all of you, because the only reason we keep doing this is because y'all are so worth it. Like, you guys are just really some of the best community I could have never imagined finding this late in my life. Like, this was not on my bingo card of life. So